Welcome to your journey of healing with the Healing Podcast, hosted by licensed clinician Monique Owe and co-host Dr. Amber Moan.
Thank you for tuning in to the Healing Podcast. I'm your host, Monique Owe, and Dr. Moan is not here with me today. And let me say, if you are listening to this, Happy New Year. We have made it to 2023. Can you believe it? I can recall when I was a child and just the year, hearing the year 2000 was like, oh my gosh, the year 2000. Can you imagine what's going to happen in the year 2000? And it seems so far away. And now we are in 2023, which is just such a blessing and amazing. And today's topic is, what will you do different? So with today's topic, I just want to say, listen, it's a new year. I know many people do New Year's resolutions. I like to do my New Year birthday to birthday. I adopted that concept a few years ago. After, someone mentioned it and I thought about it, was a good idea. I like to now look at my life birthday to birthday. But anyway, it is a new year and many people have New Year's resolutions and they're going to do something very different this year and all that good stuff. Okay. My main question to you is, what will you do different? It is a common statement that said, if you want something different in your life, you got to do something different, right? To keep doing the same thing and expect a different result is insanity. Again, right? To keep doing the same thing and expect a different result is the definition of insanity. But my simple question to you to ask yourself is, what will you do different this year? You have some goals for your life. You still have desires for your life. You still have things that you're working on in your life. But my question is to you on this year, what will you, and in this year, what will you do different? Will you go out more? Will you go out less? Will you hang out with different people more? Will you hang out with certain groups of people less? Will you take care of yourself a little bit better? Try to get more sleep? Will you try to drink more water this year to help your body? Will you say no more often this year than you have in the past? Will you say yes a little bit more because maybe you've been very selfish? Will you say yes to maybe helping people and giving things to people? Will you finally put yourself first versus putting others first? Will you finally write the book? Will you finally write the play? Will you finally write the song? It does not matter what you did not do before today. We're not worried about the past. We're worried about today going forward. So what will you do this year that you have not done before so that you can get the results in your life that you want? Will you stop worrying so much about how other people feel versus how you feel? Will you stop trying to plan every single detail of your life out and just sometimes let things be? Will you just sometimes be spontaneous? Will you realize that even if you are a great planner and you do a lot of planning, you can't plan for every single thing? That just is not realistic, because even if you plan everything to the T, things can still happen to throw things off. That is life. Will you learn how to just adjust with things? Will you learn how to just adjust to things as they happen? Will you learn how to realize it will still be okay even in a catastrophe? Will you finally address the people who have mistreated you? Will you finally allow people not to treat you like a doormat? Will you finally be the person who's a little bit more calm versus a person who's very reactionary and who's very aggressive? Will you calm down your tone? Will you stop allowing people to assume things about you that they have no clue about? And I'm even talking about people who know you. Because the thing about people who know you sometimes, they don't sometimes recognize when you've changed. And you could have changed the behavior years ago, but they still want to hold you to something that they have experienced from you, that they haven't even experienced it from you in years, but they like to hold you to it. Will you finally let that go? If the people in your life can't accept the fact that you are a different person now than who you were, or that you don't do certain behaviors that you used to do, keep your distance from those folks and focus on the people who acknowledge the progress that you've made. Will you finally stop being selfish and take accountability for things that you have done to hurt people and change the behavior? Will you finally address the person who has hurt you and tell them no more and keep them out of your life? Will you finally admit that, yes, you may have made a mistake that kind of messed some things up in your life, and the consequence might be that you may have caused some opportunities to go, but will you finally let that go and move forward? Will you finally decide to switch jobs? Will you finally decide to switch careers? Will you finally decide to stop always being the one to volunteer for the extra overtime and to come in when you don't feel well and to still power through because you think that's very noble? Will you finally decide to say, no, I'm not going in when I have a sore throat today? No, I'm not going in when I have a cold today. The office will be okay. Will you finally do something different? Will you finally do something to where, you know what? Let me say thank you to this person who I care about. Will you buy a gift for a person who you know you haven't bought a gift for in a long time? Just a random act of kindness. Maybe you'll share a random act of kindness with somebody. Will you finally decide to relax and realize you don't have to be so rigid? Do something different this year so that you can have a different result. Will you finally stop talking about it and being about it? Instead, will you finally say, you know what? I deserve different. If you would like to change your weight, change your weight. If you like the way you look, let it be. If you would like to change your hairstyle, change it. If you want to change your wardrobe, change it. If you like luxury items, be okay with liking luxury items and don't let anyone make you feel bad about the things you like. Will you travel more this year? Will you travel a little bit less and maybe stay home this year? Do something different. How will 2023 be the year that is different than any other year? Will you do that? Will you give yourself the opportunity to smile and to finally get the things you want to accomplish versus comparing your life to everybody else? Will you finally do those things you see for yourself? I hope you take that time this year in 2023 to put yourself first. Will you finally sit for that exam? Will you finally sit for that certification? Will you finally realize, you know what, let me go ahead and try to apply for that job that I've been scared of for all these years, knowing that you're qualified for? Will you finally do that? Will you finally pay that money back that you know you've owed for years? Will you slowly address the problems you've had financially? Slowly. That doesn't mean you're going to solve everything all in once, but will you finally take the steps to do it? Will you finally take steps to stop running from stuff and confronting things? What will you do different this year? All right, so before we get back into the topic, I'm going to make a quick segue here. And you know what? You guessed it. I'm going to go into the situation. So for today's situation, it goes like this. Dear Healing Podcast, me and my spouse have been having trouble over the years. And we have mentioned, or maybe I'll say myself as the woman in a relationship, I will say over the years, I've mentioned a lot how I've wanted a divorce. Unfortunately, we've had some issues and we've tried to work through them, but I'm just tired, and I have been tired for a while. And shockingly, a couple weeks ago, my spouse finally said that they were ready. They said they were ready to file, and that they were going to file next week for divorce. And now that my spouse has said that to me, reality is setting in, and I'm just wondering, is this really what I want? Is this really what we need? And I'm just wondering, is that just me having cold feet because it's becoming more real? Or is it the fact that maybe something else is still there that we need to work on? I just want maybe a couple pointers if you could share with me about what your thoughts may be. Well, thank you so much for writing into the Healing Podcast. And I am sorry to hear that you have been discussing divorce, or you guys might be, filing for divorce. I always like to see marriages stick together, but I do know that sometimes things happen and divorce sometimes happens. It sounds like based on what you're saying, like for years, you guys have already had issues and you guys have been discussing it. The only difference now is that your spouse, he finally said that he agreed and that he was going to take the step. So it sounds to me like you're just getting cold feet because it's really in your face. I don't know. I don't have enough information to say that maybe there is something there to still work on. I mean, but I'm always going to say I'm always hopeful that there can always be some type of a rekindling. But if you're saying for years you guys have had issues and tried the counseling and tried many things and tried to make it work and it just wasn't happening, and it sounds like maybe you were mentioning divorce a lot before, but now he finally got on board and decided to take the step, I think it's just that it's reality. So I'm going to say, have a conversation with your spouse, discuss if you guys really are doing this and what this would mean for you guys now that you're filing for divorce, and walk through it, and then you both determine, is this really what we need? Because I think the issues have been there. You said this has been going on for years. It's just that now it's becoming more real because he's about to file. So I would say it's worth a conversation with your spouse, but it sounds like it's just that reality hit. I don't know if it's another spark. It just sounds like reality is here now, where maybe now you guys are both on the same page. You just weren't expecting it to happen right now. And I thank you for writing into the Healing Podcast and for sharing your situation. If anybody else is out there and want to share their situation, please email support@thehealingpodcast.com. And before we go back into the topic, a word from our sponsor, Healing Expressions.
Are you someone who has been considering therapy? Perhaps someone else has told you that you need to talk to a therapist. Or maybe you're in a relationship and you want to discuss some challenges that you've been facing with your significant other. Maybe there's a communication issue, perhaps an incident of infidelity. Or maybe you just want to strengthen your relationship because you guys are thinking about taking another step. Maybe you're struggling with anxiety or depression, perhaps grief, life stressors, and you just want to share your thoughts with someone. Well, consider contacting Healing Expressions. Healing Expressions is a private practice located in the Atlanta, Georgia area. You will be given a session at an affordable price with a licensed therapist. If this resonates with you, consider going to healingexpressionsllc.com, reading about the practice, and hitting the contact tab to see if you can book a session. All right. Thank you so much. And back to the Healing Podcast.
And back to the topic at hand, what will you do different? It is just as I said earlier, what will you do different? That is a question for you to ask yourself and answer. But I am going to say, if you want a different result this year, do at least one thing different that you have not done in years prior, or maybe in a long time. Do something so that you can see a different result, because you've already tried the same thing and haven't received a different result. Right now, try to do something different. So if you are complaining about work and complaining about your job, apply for a new job. If you know you are creative and you have gifts to write plays and books, and you are the next brilliant mind that we need to see in Hollywood with different stories and movies, write the screenplay, write the book, write the play, write it, just write it and see what happens. You know what? Today, write a chapter for today and see how you feel. Go visit that friend you haven't seen in a long time that you've been saying you want to do it. Go get that life insurance policy that you still keep putting off. Yes, I'm talking to you. You still keep putting it off and you keep saying you're going to do it, but you haven't done it. Well, today is the year. This is the year where you're finally going to do it. Go get that life insurance policy on your loved one too that you're taking care of, that you keep saying you're going to do and you keep putting it off. You don't want the shock this year where you feel like, oh, wow, it happened and I'm unprepared. This is the year where you're prepared. Go do the will. Go put something in someone else's name. Go share your information with somebody so they know what to do if something were to happen to you. Do something different. Treat yourself first. Put yourself first. You owe yourself that. So for 2023, let it be the year of doing something different. How do you start? By just picking one thing. Well, what I'll tell you to do is this. Write a list of all the things you desire for your life. And now from that list, pick one thing on that list. And for this month in January, work on that one thing. Leave the rest of it for now. I'm giving you a small place to start. Write the list of all the things you want. And for the month of January, do that one thing. And then go from there. Let that be your jump start. And be okay. If you don't accomplish it all, that's fine. We're not worried about that. If you're going to accomplish it, if you're going to be able to do it, we're not worried about that right now. We're worried about you getting started. So for the month of January, for right now, pick that thing from that list and just go do it. And if anything else, get yourself an accountability partner. Get someone else in your life, whether a close friend, a distant family member, to just remind you, hey, to check in. Hey, did you do that thing that you said you were going to do? Get an accountability partner and do that. This is the year when you're going to do something different and you're going to get a different result because you deserve it. Later, for the relationship that has been stressful to you, that has been strenuous on you, let that go. And you know what type of relationship I'm talking about, where you've been trying to do everything you can and your partner just really has not been meeting your needs and vice versa. And you guys have been having a lot of arguments and discord and you've tried different things. You know the answer. Do something different. If you need to go to counseling for yourself. If you need to start working on your emotional self, go into counseling, go get a life coach. Again, pick one thing from the list and do that. If that one thing on that list is therapy, then go find a therapist and do that. I hope that this episode has been helpful to you. And again, this is the year of doing something different. I do thank you for your support, for always tuning into the Healing Podcast. Please let your friends, your family know, even your enemies, because they need some healing too. And go ahead and subscribe on the YouTube channel. If you're listening to this on YouTube, please go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe. And I just thank you guys. Thank you for tuning in, and Happy New Year 2023. Looking forward to what this year will bring. I will leave you with this. One has to do something new in order to see something new. Thank you so much for your support and for tuning in. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.